That was Dr. Pradeep's for you. I invite Professor Govindan Ragarajan sir, Dr. Ram Rao sir, Sona sir, Dr. Nikrishnan sir, and Pratap Kumar Das for inaugurating the program and offering floral tributes. We can take the seats. Madam. I request Angela to offer floral tributes, and also Dr. Sunil, Dr. Anseli. I invite Professor Golden Rangarajan sir for giving the welcome address. Yeah, warm welcome to all of you. On behalf of the Institute of Science, I would like to welcome the entire audience to this talk. It's indeed fitting that we are commemorating the memory of Mr. Modi through such a talk by a very distinguished person, Somna, Chair of ISRO. So I think all of you are eagerly waiting for this talk. So let me be brief, but it's nice to see the hall so full. It tells you the interest in the whole Chandrayaan mission, what ISRO is doing. So it's really great to see. I hope many more talks are attended in this fashion. Thank you all. Yeah. I invite Dr. Prahlad also for giving the presidential address.
Friends, young and also young. So nice to see Rama around here. So you know everything about Pradeep. It's a great Hindi teacher. I think respect his contribution and allow you to enjoy what Rama has taught you. Thank you very much.
I invite Dr. Mukesh sir to give the presentation. Very good afternoon. Relevant Secretary DOIS, Professor Govind, the Director of this Institute, Dr. Prahlad Rao, Dr. Sivaram, Chairman of IISC and family of Dr. Pradeep, faculties, students, outstanding students, those who are standing there in the back. So I came to this institute in 1993. It's an undergraduate student. To walk through my career to retire, time was not a constraint for me because I used to complete all that answers 1 hour before and then go to play. I never get good mark question. But I was challenged when I came to this institute. Here I have processed to give 70 questions, 1 hour. And then we will ask to write all the question. Whoever is writing maximum will take us 100%. So it was a very tough time. But the first semester, even I thought of going back. Why should I take this trouble? So it was a nice experience. I must say that if I take the entire academic career, the 1.5 years that I spent here has transformed me. And this campus has given me a lot of insight and just given me a lot of confidence in going further.
Out of this world, I make moves ahead of the curve. I'ma teleport you to another dimension, straight up out of this earth. I can't stop, I'm on a roll. Buckle up, we're taking control. Feel the vibration, no limitation. Got the power, let's go. Power. Now that's power. Power.
Hey, are you someone who faces problems in remembering Excel formulas? What if I tell you that from today onwards, you don't need to remember any Excel formula? And this is possible with the help of AI. When you integrate AI in Microsoft Office, you can create complex Excel formulas, generate Excel reports, analyze your data, and create stunning PowerPoint presentations in just a few seconds. Hi, I'm Jatan Shah, a Microsoft certified trainer, and I have created a 3-hour live and interactive workshop that will teach you how to become a ChatGPT and AI expert with Microsoft Office. The AI skills that you will learn in this workshop will help you save at least 2 hours of your hard work every day. The free AI tools can boost your productivity by automating your work and increase your monthly salary by 3 times. You don't need to have any prior technical experience and you don't need to learn coding for it. You just need to tell the AI what you want to do and the AI will work for you. I have already helped 23,000 employees who use Microsoft Office every day to work 10 times faster, become irreplaceable in their jobs, and unlock job opportunities.
Late than never grow, but then we started this. Let us continue this. All the very best. Thank you. Very sorry, I didn't introduce myself. So sorry. I'm Dr. Vijay Prasad. I'm working as a scientist at the Space Center. I am Sri Sona sir for reminiscing Pradeep sir and his memories, and that will be followed by Chandrayaan finish.
All of you, on the respected Secretary Sina, Director of IISC, Chair of the Association, Chair of the ACT, my teachers who are here, those who are there with me during my student days, and also young people who are then filling this hall, my greetings to you all on this occasion. the first Dr. Pradeep Memorial Talk. I got this opportunity and possibility to talk on a very interesting day. If I talk about Dr. Pradeep, the memories of my coming to IISC, being a student in aerospace department for my master's comes back in my mind. I believe it was Dr. Pradeep who came to our class first, the very first teacher who came to my class, and he was talking about flight mechanics. And we knew nothing about it. Though I am coming from because aerospace at that time, we were having a little bit of understanding of rockets, not much of aircrafts and the flight of aircrafts. That understanding was not there. It was such an interesting topic. Later he taught us about orbital mechanics, which we are dealing with for the mission to moon, and also the flight of rockets, how to design trajectories and things like that. And all those formulations, how to deal with mechanics, which is still a very great passion for me and many others who are here. He was not only teacher of that flight mechanics course. When I later, after my coursework is over, I had to take project work about the aircraft tech, and I was specializing in structures. So all my aircraft were in structures. Then somehow I was so interested in project in structures. I thought I should do something different, because though I thought I am reasonably good in structures, I don't want to do more in structures. I thought I should study something else. I thought I should do controls. I didn't take any course on controls. Then I went to a colleague and said that I would like to do some work on controls, and especially control structure interactions, which are still a hot topic in my organization. I used to see a lot of people fighting each other. The structures people want to speak is generally not understood by the controls people. And they always say, what is the generalized mass? They still don't understand what is generalized mass. So, when this conflict was going on in my organization, as a young engineer watching all this drama in reviews, I thought it's the right time for me to study this and make some contribution where I have to join my organization. So I decided I should do something connecting structures and controls. And I approached Pradeep sir. He said that this topic requires some background. Then you need to study. Then I went into the other departments like computer science and automation, and I had the opportunity to study courses. I approached I.G. Sharma, then Yuva Prasad. Then I went to mechanical department. I studied direction control of mechanical systems by Srinivasa. I ordered all these courses just to do my project. Then I came to Pradeep sir and I said this, now I have to do this project. And he helped me to do that project. It was on an agriculture assignment to control a fictitious problem in the rocket, vibration, which gave me a great insight on how the control system works in rockets. Though it was not the control system we work in typically in a rocket that we fly, but it was a modern control, totally a different problem. Way back, I had an opportunity to apply this a little bit into when we tried to develop something called flexible trajectory analysis for the reusable rocket which we launched recently, that landed recently. At that time, we were sending to the orbit. The current formulation of how to design flexible rocket.
Do you know Accenture recently laid off more than 19,000 employees? Cognizant laid off more than 12,000 of their employees, and other IT companies are following soon. Do you know why this is happening? This is happening because of rise of ChatGPT and other AI tools. So if you don't want to get laid off and if you want to upskill yourself, the best thing you can do right now is learn art of using ChatGPT and other AI advancements. Hi, my name is Aditya Kachwe and I'm graduate of IIT Kharagpur and co-founder of multiple 8-figure companies like Mad About Sport, B10X and Muni EdTech. In my 2-hour workshop, I'm going to teach you how you can leverage ChatGPT by giving killer prompts. On top of that, I'm going to teach you many AI tools which will make you at least 10x more productive. And all these things I'm going to cover in 2 hours only at price point of ₹299. And the best part is if you register before tonight, I'm also giving you bonuses worth 10,500 rupees. So see you in workshop.
Mark III rocket, and it is this rocket that made this Chandrayaan landing possible. Without this launch capability, even Chandrayaan 2 was not possible, Chandrayaan 3 is also not possible. I am also very proud of the fact that I happened to be the project lead when it made its first launch, and also had opportunity to work on this for long years. Happy to see that's riding safe even after his 6th mission. And the last mission, that was LVM-3M4, which took off. We had this Chandrayaan mounted inside the payload fairing like this. Maybe little more details of the rocket I will give you. And this is a majestic lift off of the rocket from the second launch pad at Satish Dhawan Space Center. The two of the solid boosters firing. You can see the mighty rocket taking off. This is 640 tons of mass, finally putting only 3.8 tons of the spacecraft in the orbit. See the beauty of the rocket when it flies. And just for this pleasure of looking at it, we make it. Okay, the rocket puts the satellite in an orbit of 170 by 36,500 kilometers. That's a design orbit. But mostly the orbit that we achieve will be in few kilometers in error. So that's the dispersion that we indicated there, which has also an orbital element. When I see this argument of Perige's word, which I never knew before when I came to ISR, why you are arguing so much with the Perige, I thought. So this was again, I asked Dr. Pradeep, I remember what exactly is the physical interpretation of this, and similarly other orbital element terminologies. Of course, that inclination is this, and we have a mass of 3,895 kilogram, which has to be injected in the orbit. Now it has an interesting flight sequence. It starts with a solid boosters in ignition, and once it is almost getting completed, the liquid stage gets into action, and there is a transitioning phase which is managed by the control system properly. And after the end of it, the cryogenic stage comes on and goes to the orbit to inject it with the velocities of almost 10 kilometers per second plus. So this puts in an elliptical orbit around Earth with a specified argument of perigee as well as inclination. And from that point, we track it, find out the orbit, and then do the further velocity addition at the perigee point so as to increase the apogee height further and further until it reaches up to the moon. So I don't go into all of the details because that's not the topic of here. So this is how the Chandrayaan 3 looks like. And you can see that this is something called the rocket part. It's a composite structure which is called the payload adapter. Very lightweight composite structure capable of taking the mass and the dynamics, frequency constraint, things like that. And this part is the propulsion module or the orbiter. It has an engine, single engine at the center, which will take it from Earth to the moon location. So the entire fuel, the whole of this satellite is filled with fuel, mostly fuel, and the rest of the control system, sensors, and things like that. And the most important part is the lander, which is sitting on top. You can see there are 4 engines. And the engine here is actually half the powerful as this engine. This develops almost 800 newtons of thrust, whereas the engine in the propulsion module just generates only 440 newtons. So it's not a high thrust engine that takes you to Earth to moon, but landing requires much more powerful engine and much more energy. So killing the velocity and gravity, working against gravity is actually spending a lot of energy. From moving from here to moon takes actually much lesser thrust and effort. So from the craft, you can see these are the 4 legs, which will, the landing legs. And this is the door which will open to bring out the rover outside. So there will be a guiding, sliding track through which the rover will come out. And this is one of the experiments that is put underneath. Of course, this lander is fitted with so many instruments around it, which I'll explain later. So this shows some pictures of the assembly of the rocket. Of course, you would have seen in our website, who have a habit of visiting ISRO's website regularly must be seeing all these pictures coming in. So don't want to explain all of that. But the spacecraft is still very small compared to the payload fairing. You can see it has still more volume, but the whole launch is limited by its mass, not by the volume. Now, before I go into Chandrayaan 3, it must be interesting to you to talk about Chandrayaan 2, because that prompted us to work on Chandrayaan 3. And Chandrayaan 2, all the work we did, the good work we did, it actually...
क्या आपको पता है that your body gives you signs? Signs that say your body needs your attention. थोड़ी extra care. Hair fall से acne तक, ये वो signs है जो हमारी body हमें देती है. इन्हें समझिए, be body wise के साथ, and give your body the right personalized care. Be Body Wise works with your body. Learn more at bebodywise.com.
We always wanted a diamond. From toy rings in the childhood to dream of buying it from the first salary, the engagement ring, or the gift for our mums. Shop the diamond that you always wanted.
All the way to moon, almost correctly, it went into a 100-kilometer orbit. It did all the maneuvers, and only in the last part of the landing process we had the problem. It had the orbiter. The orbiter is still functioning on the moon with all instruments, and it is still giving a lot of scientific data. Of course, many people won't even speak about what it is doing, orbiter is doing. Orbiter, all the scientific objectives of that has been still met, and a lot of scientists are making use of the data. Lander on rover, there were few instruments, but that couldn't be functioning because it ended up with a very high velocity. So I'll just quickly explain what went wrong with Chandrayaan 2 and what corrective actions that we are doing in Chandrayaan 3 to mitigate all those problems. Let me tell you that a little bit technical now. If you have no interest in flight dynamics, you can ignore. And all those planning of travel of bodies across space is something very, very complex. But it requires a lot of thought process and discussions and coming out with certain methods by which it can be designed. The problem in bringing down any object from space to ground is the ability to remove the energy which is contained in it. The energy processed by bodies at tremendous velocities are very high. The kinetic energy is very, very high. And it can be taken away only by some force that you apply in opposite direction to take away all the energy. Either you can use aerodynamics. When you are traveling through air, you can use the drag as a retarding mechanism. In moon, there is no atmosphere. And you have to use only the engines to kill the velocity. And this velocity has to be killed in two ways. Any orbital object is having tangential velocity with respect to the body about which it is orbiting. But ultimately, it has to land vertically. So there will be a vertical velocity because gravity pulls it down all the time. And the moment you reduce the horizontal velocity, it will fall like a stone. And if you want to stop it, then you need to give an opposite direction velocity. So the whole process of killing the velocity is a continuous process in which both vertical and horizontal velocities are to be killed in a controlled manner so as to reach at the point that it has zero horizontal velocity and zero vertical velocity, or reasonable low value of vertical velocity, absolutely no horizontal velocity as well. So this is a trick and how to do it. It's a very complex mathematical problem in which requires fuel optimality issues, the capability, the power plant capability, the dynamics of the body, all this plays a lot of roles. So that design process I am not explaining here. What I want to tell you that there is a process in which we start the whole process at 100 kilometers. So 100 kilometer orbit, the velocity will be reduced in such a manner that it will have an orbit of 100 kilometer apogee and 30 kilometer perigee. And from that point, it starts the descending process. It's called the powered descent phase. And it is split into various phases. And this whole phase is designed with its guidance schemes, its color algorithms, instrument calibration, the feedbacks. Different instruments come at different times. When it actually travels here, you can't see the ground properly. So you can put a camera and then see how high I am from the surface. Because all this calculation of where it is in this kilometer is simply coming out of the verification orbit from ground. Using radar, we track its trajectory and say it is at 30 kilometer. What's the guarantee it is at 30 kilometer? It can be erroneous due to our tracking errors. So this is called relative navigation. You don't have any information of the local effects. You don't have any information of the terrain here. There could be a hill of few kilometers. There could be a value of something else. So really the height could be different. So we have to use absolute sensors to find out what height it is really. Either use a radar altimeter or optical system or laser altimeter or similar instruments to find out where exactly it is. So all this will come into play when it has reached a certain height where the sensors will actually start functioning. Until then, we depend on the inertial system which is inside. The inertial system is a laser-based gyroscope which actually measures its position in a manner which a typical inertial sensor measure. So the whole process of traveling from here to here is controlled manner. The body will be, initially it will be like this. The engines will be firing in a manner which will kill all the horizontal velocity. By the time it travels, it has to slowly turn and reach orientations in which the opposite velocity will be killing both the horizontal and vertical velocity. The moment you kill the horizontal velocity, the vertical velocity will start increasing. And you need to start killing it also. So this trajectory has to be so designed. Then there is a phase where we will do certain instrument calibration, keeping the attitude same. It looks at the ground and calibrate all its measuring instruments. So actually very good data comes or not. Then decides to go for the final landing. And at some point, it will also hover and see that it is able to stay stationary and do the measurements to confirm how high it is from the ground. Then make the final descent with a certain fixed velocity. So this was algorithm, but there was something going wrong in Chandrayaan 2. I'll quickly explain that part. Possibly some of you may follow, some of you may not follow. It took many days for us to understand because unfortunately this whole event happened in Moon and we were not able to collect back the debris. So maybe when we are finally going one day with somebody will go from India and then bring it back. It is still there, so nobody will take it away. But then today we have only the physical reconstruction process of the sensor data and also the hypothesis that we put forward, which actually matches with the observable data. From that we can synthesize that this has gone wrong in this, and that could be the most probable reason of what happened. That's how any event can be reconstructed. So from the reconstruction we understand certain things, but all of that we understand will not be explained to you for today because I am still in a mission, Chandrayaan 3, and I don't want a backlash. Okay, so the whole of this process, the rough breaking process was really fantastic. Everything was going wrong. No, everything was going right. So everything was going wrong from this point. So I am marking it green and the red where it actually started. There is a deviation started from this point. The point where the deviation started is a point where we keep the attitude constant. The body position was kept constant and it was doing a certain process of called camera coasting. So it was taking the images of the surface and trying to correlate with and sending it as correlate with the images inside or references inside. Then after this process created certain anomalies which couldn't be recovered in the further process. So finally, when the algorithm in this couldn't foresee the possibility of that things developing and the intelligence available was not enough or something went wrong in that. Some software errors happened, so algorithmic errors happened. We put unnecessary constraints which couldn't come out of it. So finally, it ended up with a crash. And we will see here that the whole of the last of the information that we received was at a height of around 335 meters. And the whole thing happened almost 800 meters away from the actual landing site. Less than that we crashed. So that's what happened. Now I will explain a little more of the detail. The whole of the orbit was perfect and it started, the camera coasting started, then only the problem started. The first of the problem that happened was the thrust of these 4 engines was slightly higher. And it was slightly higher, but it was still within the bound of the engine, supposed to be the thrust. But then when this thrust is higher, there is a correction process of the total acceleration we should do. The algorithm for correcting that was erroneous. So it's called the cumulative thrust was computed at the end. It was supposed to be corrected because there is a phase that you have seen where attitude is kept constant. We don't want any undue control activity taking place because orientation may change. So it was somehow the importance was given to keep the orientation constant and not to correct all these errors, which was very costly decision algorithmically. So we found that there is an algorithmic error in which the correction process should have been instantaneous. Then this problem would not happen. Then in the fine landing phase, large errors accumulated at the end of the coasting phase, which caused the system not capable of correcting. It started correcting, but then there was an artificial limit inside. The rate at which it can correct was limited by the artificial limit which we put as 10 degrees per second. We were allowing the craft only to turn at that rate. If it was allowed to turn at a faster rate, possibly it would have corrected. But then the designers assumed that there will be no demand of this nature and unnecessarily system should not rotate it at faster rate. They kept an artificial limit, which is unwanted. So that created the ability to correct and come back to the required orientation. The time was not enough. And when that was not enough, what it was doing, then it found that it is not at the landing site. It is still far away. So the algorithm is trying to say, I want to go there. So algorithm is telling the craft, what it was doing is trying to gain horizontal velocity and move there. Whereas it is already having high velocity, vertical velocity. It's not able to kill that velocity. So it created a confusing condition for the entire algorithm. What it has to do, it is always telling you to go and land at that point. Unable to go there. unable to kill this velocity, and the time the computer computed, the total time to go to do the landing, there is an algorithm on board to compute what is the time left, and based on which the whole process will be designed. That time was happened to be lesser than what it should have been. A few more seconds more, if the compute algorithm gives you, it would have landed still safer. So I said in a very simple language, I don't know whether you understood all of these issues, but then for the time being, I will only limit that much for the sake of it. So the essence of this problem was a wrong implementation of an algorithm on board. And second, the artificially limiting the parameters unnecessarily without foresight of failure. So the whole design was done based on a success-oriented means, not a failure-oriented approach. The moment you do that, there are possibilities like that. This is the first lesson that came out of this. Now you can see when on the moon, this is supposed to land here. This should have been the landing point, but it landed here, almost 800 meters. Okay, 482 kilometers. Yeah. And are you able to see the lander here? Sure, you are not able to see now, no? Now can you see? So it is still there. So this is an image from the high resolution camera that is on board the Chandrayaan 2, which took this image. So hopefully we will be able to take images later as well. So the lander, it actually crashed at a location which is very near to a crater, but still a safer location if it was a good landing. But this was a landing point which was only half a kilometer by half a kilometer size. Now we have done certain modifications to handle these problems I mentioned, and how we are overcoming it, I will explain to you from now. Okay. Now in the mission objective of Chandrayaan 3 is just the same, have a safe and soft landing. Without that, the next objectives cannot be met. We cannot do the rover coming out, we can't do the experiments. So the first and foremost objective is to have safe and soft landing. So the entire approach is towards that. The masses have gone some changes. The orbital lander, there has been a lot of changes. It's not the same orbiter, it's not the same lander. We have done a lot of improvements on the lander became heavier and the orbiter or the propulsion module became lighter. All the instruments which were there in the orbiter last time are all removed now because there is no need. Already an orbiter there with all the instruments, and it has all the capabilities to handle the mission as an orbiter itself. So it doesn't have to have all the features of a typical orbiter now. So we could reduce the mass of that, and all that mass we saved from here are added to that, and we added more propellant. The tanks were stretched, we added more propellant, we strengthened the legs, we strengthened extra solar panels, we added new sensors, and we added redundant electronics, we added powerful batteries, more than what was there, and specifically new sensors. So the overall mass was nearly the same. So the entire process of moving from Earth to Moon remains the same, but of course the number of burns here changes a little bit. And the landing process is entirely changed. I think I will come on and try to explain that part in a very simple language. Essentially, the changes are the following. One, we found out why the engine is developing a thrust which is higher. So we found out through a lot of extensive tests, we found that there is a valve which controls the throttling of the engine. Now, this engine is not working at a constant thrust. It actually changes the thrust based on the need of that condition. So there is a valve which controls the flow of the propellants. And this valve was not responding in a manner that is needed. If it is commanded at a highest rate, it doesn't respond at that point. And this was found out much later. And we reduced the slewing rate of this valve so as to control to achieve the same response as expected. And the logic errors in implementing the incremental thrust, there was an error which was corrected. The biggest error which was there, the instantaneous thrust regulation scheme was not there. In the camera costing phase, I said, no, there were accumulation of errors, but it was tried to be corrected at the end, which is not a right method. It should have been corrected right then and there. So this implementation algorithm is the most important thing that will, if at all it has to save this mission for Chandrayaan 3, will happen. We also increase the margins of control system or the ability of the guidance system to handle higher thrust dispersions. It went up almost up to 90 Newton per engine we can handle. And even if any deviation occur, it can retarget, it can salvage, and emergency landing it can do, which all were not there at that time. For example, if the landing is supposed to be at that point, and if it knows that I cannot reach there, then it will land there itself. So this capability was not there. It was always trying to reach that point. So we need to have such features, and the artificial limits are all widened. And we widened in such a manner that the initial conditions of the mission are also widened. Even if it is inserted in this algorithm at this point with a larger dispersion to the extent of even 6 sigma, it will still make a soft landing. And this is how the whole mission is designed. And the most important part is we added a new instrument called laser Doppler velocimeter, which is the absolute measurement of the velocities in 3 directions using a sensor mounted on the Chandrayaan. So we know its velocity exactly, so it can plan properly, which was very important instrument in all moon missions. This instrument used to be there, and we tried to get this instrument from somewhere outside, and we couldn't buy last time in Chandrayaan 2. And we understood if Chandrayaan 3 has to happen, this instrument is mandatory. And it was developed by ISRO people in our own laboratory in a record time and qualified to be one of the best instruments today. There were also a lot of corrections we did in software. In fact, it is not proper for me to explain all of this. I think it may not be needed. But essentially, what we are looking at is we look at simulations. I think anybody who works on such softwares will understand. There is nothing ideal in a world. No, nothing works in the nominal. Everything will be over a distribution. It's a statistical sense, many parameters, mass, center of gravity, the control system, the thrust, the sensor data, the gravity, everything is actually probabilistic. So when you do studies of any mechanical system, dynamical system, you need to look at the probabilistic nature of the problem and simulate in a Monte Carlo sense what can happen when scenarios evolve. And here you can introduce failures of various systems, redundancies, etc. And what will be the next path it will take. So we focused this time on simulations, extensive simulations, where generally we look at nominal plus certain sigma dispersions, but we looked at even additive extreme of all critical parameters. What will happen? We will also look at the limits of performance, which can trigger it to failure. We also looked at up to 6 sigma perturbations. I know 6 sigma, many things may not survive, but there are failure cases in 6 sigma. And we are also stressing the software for test cases in which software failures can occur, can be triggered by computational errors. And we created additional test beds in various labs and see hardware, software test beds to see the software and hardware are very good. So the whole of the focus on the last few years was in simulation and getting guarantee of the whole implementation. And many of the sensors which were there, I think you must be interested to understand about sensors who are working. Absolute velocimeters, laser Doppler velocimeter, which actually uses a laser beam to do this. There is a camera-based velocity detection scheme, which takes images based on the pixels. You can change from one image to another. You can detect the velocity. There are 2 altimeters, which is one works on laser and another works on RF-based Ka-band radar altimeter. This both works on reflections and it estimates the height, and all the specifications have been much strengthened. There is a hazard detection camera. This is again an interesting camera. Once it is about to land, it has to see there is no boulder or a crater. And we have to have a certain area which is devoid of these issues. There only it has to land. If you find just at the nadir, where we are looking straight down, if you find it's not safe, it will immediately make a choice to move either horizontally in any direction, provided their safe zone is available 150 meters away. So this is algorithm. So if that is so, it will move and go to 150 meters. If it is beyond that, it will land there itself. So this is the algorithm. So you cannot do beyond 150 meters. The fuel available is just not enough to go further. So this camera has to be.
जो 80 में पंजाब में हुआ था ना, वो अब कश्मीर में होने वाला है।
घरों के बाहर लेटर्स लगते थे, आपके घर में इसको मारा जाएगा।
ऑर्डर दे किसी को मार दो, आप मार देते थे। हाँ जी। अगर वो कहता अपनी माँ को जान से मार डालो, मार देते।
We were killed because we represented India.
अपने देश में डर के रहना पड़ेगा।
इन कश्मीरी पंडितों का सत्य आखिर क्या था?
Every day I want to go back, but not to a hotel. I want to go to my house.
reference units. And this is a very critical package which is developed by our IISC, which is flying in all rockets and satellites, still doing very well. And this gives the inertial measurement, and this is calibrated against stars. The orientation of the craft at any point is updated with respect to the universal references, and this is uploaded to this to make it always right in its orientation. So this is used as a primary sensor, and all other sensors are secondary sensors. So with so much of sensors, only this can actually go and land somewhere. There were a lot of changes in the propulsion. I mentioned about the rate at which it is corrected. That is, we call it pulses per second. So it was originally 900 reduced to 500, which actually make it little sluggish, but for the dynamics, it is good enough. There we found that the slows of the propellant inside the tank can create control structure interactions. And because, propellant in a tank which is half filled can oscillate and make the body of the satellite move. So we have to suppress that by giving a damping. We have also changed the thrust limits and also the structure of the propulsion. I don't want to go all of that, but all of this has been tested extensively to say that the changes we made in the propulsion are good enough. So the propulsion system will look like it. This is for the orbiter side. There is a single engine, and there are 8 small engines, which actually does the travel from Earth to Moon. And until the capture, this is used. Fuel, oxidizer, its own regulators, valves, and things like that, which operates on command. And each of these engines are operated by its own valves. So it's a very complex circuit with so many elements, which actually powers the orbiter. Same is the case with the lander. The lander has 4 engines and its own thrusters that controls it. It's almost similar to the orbiter, but the engines are much more powerful here. The amount of energy that need to be killed is much higher. Now, in the guidance and control, of course, there has been a lot of contribution from Indian Institute of Science. Professor Padi is here. We had extensive work with him and the students, his students who are there in ISRO. And they were the people who actually worked on this guidance scheme, developed it. Major changes have been made in this guidance scheme today to handle various issues that we encountered. One of them is the continuity of the engine thrust profiles. And also the regulation scheme which you mentioned, the perturbation I mentioned already, and also to look at the other multiple mission paths in case of anomaly, the safety that has been built in, control I have already told. So for brevity, I am not going into the guidance algorithm at all. Maybe you can ask Dr. Padi to give another talk at some other point on the guidance algorithm, because if I start speaking, he will have objection. Now coming to the touchdown point of view. So earlier the mass of the Chandrayaan craft was 700, now it is 800 by the time it touches down. But what we have done is the overall energy absorbing capability of the legs have been now improved. But of course the velocity is too high, none of this will help us, because hitting at 10 meter per second, 40 meter per second like last time, it's not going to help us. So what we did is last time the upper limit was 2 meter per second, this time the upper limit is 3 meter per second plus. So it will be able to handle up to that velocity, because the energy associated with the speed falling objects are too high. You will know if some stone fall on your head, only you will realize how much energy the stone got. So killing that such energy is actually very difficult. So there is certain energy absorbing, crushing, damping systems incorporated in the legs to handle this. Another important change we did is the landing area is now expanded. The most important gain we got from Chandrayaan 2 is the entire image of the Chandrayaan moon surface is now available to a resolution of 25 centimeter. That I can see 25 centimeter big items in 1 pixel. So that much accuracy images are now available, the entire moon. So using that, we have made a beautiful map now, and the whole area where we are going to land is now expanded. The entire track is now observed where it is the best track to land. And we have selected a landing area which is typically of the size 4 kilometer long and 2.5 kilometer wide. Last time it was half a kilometer by half a kilometer. So it has a larger area, and this area selected in which there are no huge craters or boulders. So it is safer. If at all you are not able to land at the middle of this point, anywhere landing could be possible. So this is one important change that we made. So the entire area is now gridded, mapped. The whole of this information is actually staying within the Chandrayaan 2. It is already stored on board. So whenever it takes a picture of some location near to this, it will compare with the onboard stored image, and immediately it can, if you are able to correlate based on feature matching, it can say I am here now. So, and then rest of the travel is well defined. So it will be able to assign its coordinates to the area in which it is measured. So it will be quickly able to match with this and do. If the matching doesn't happen, again, that is a failure mode and how to handle it.
Hey, are you someone who faces problems in remembering Excel formulas? What if I tell you that from today onwards, you don't need to remember any Excel formula? And this is possible with the help of AI. When you integrate AI in Microsoft Office, you can create complex Excel formulas, generate Excel reports, analyze your data, and create stunning PowerPoint presentations in just a few seconds. Hi, I'm Jatan Shah, a Microsoft certified trainer, and I have created a 3-hour live and interactive workshop that will teach you how to become a ChatGPT and AI expert with Microsoft Office. The AI skills that you will learn in this workshop will help you save at least 2 hours of your hard work every day. The free AI tools can boost your productivity by automating your work and increase your monthly salary by 3 times. You don't need to have any prior technical experience, and you don't need to learn coding for it. You just need to tell the AI what you want to do, and the AI will work for you. I have already helped 23,000.
Energy power is only sun, nothing else available on moon. So that is the criticality of landing. Now, on the software side, there were many changes on the navigation, guidance, and control software. So I won't explain this so much because it may not be of great interest or relevance to you. But in the most important general improvements, which is possibly could be helping us, is the structure, which I mentioned that after the landing, we understood that we need to beef up here and there, some places. That has been done. The thermal environment of the entire craft has been once again revisited because we changed our solar panels this time. New solar panels are added for energy generation, so it required a more thermal analysis. The mechanisms has been strengthened. The radio frequency communication protocols which are available on board were limiting last time to send the data, so it has been, rates have been increased almost 200 kilobyte per second, 500 kilobyte per second. Also the images can come at faster rate now. The power side also strengthened, the ability to generate more power, and also the battery capacity increases. The wheels are the one which actually controls it. You know, reaction wheels, we call it just wheels. The wheels inside spin it at very high speeds to generate the control moments when thrusters are not firing. So these wheels are again now, the capacity is almost double now, so as to handle the orientation change much faster. So these are some of the major changes that we did. And the most important part is the test. Before we went into Chandrayaan 3 launch decision, the amount of tests we did is really hundreds of tests. But I'll classify them into this 3 categories. One is called the integrated cold test, integrated hot test, and landing leg related test. I will explain some of this little later, and the amount of facilities and work we did to validate the design on ground. I think, you know, if you want to test anything that is designed for moon to test on ground, what are the challenges? Gravity, of course. And how to create a reduced gravity environment here, is it possible? It is possible. In some extent it is possible. You can put a counterweight. Okay.